Welcome to episode 34 of the Dance to Oneness podcast. My name is Amy Shine, and today's topic is living with an addict. So, I've had many people reach out to me in the last year and a half, 2 years, wondering and asking for guidance and support around what to do when a loved one or someone you're in a relationship with is in addiction. And I have had to work through this in my own life. I lived with someone in addiction for 7 years and then also left that relationship. So there's a lot of tools that I used when I was living with that person and what I did to take care of me and how I got myself through that process in living with someone in addiction. And then there's a whole other conversation around leaving someone in addiction. So today's episode is going to be specifically on living with someone in addiction. And then the next episode, I will talk about leaving someone in addiction. So some of the topics I'm going to talk about today is number one, what is addiction? Busting the stereotypes of addicts. What do you do to cope when you're living with someone in addiction? What coping mechanisms do you use? What do you do to take care of you when you're living with someone in addiction? And then I'll take you through some tools, questions, different perspective shifts to help you take care of you, help you look at what you need to look at in your own healing journey when in a situation of a loved one in addiction. Okay, so if you're just joining the live stream, welcome. If you're listening to this in the future, hi. But if you're on the live stream and you can comment, please let me know. I just want to know if my sound's okay, the volume is okay. I'm in my parents' conservatory in Ireland, and sometimes their conservatories have an echo. So please let me know in the comments if the sound is okay. And we will get started. Okay, so let's look at number one, what is addiction? Addiction, lots of people call themselves addicts, and they might not be a total addict. They might just have addictive behaviors. But addiction as a compulsion, there's actually, for someone to really be an addict, it's where they actually have an allergic response in their body to the substance they use that makes their body crave and need that substance. So take the example of alcohol. Some people can drink alcohol and may drink a lot of alcohol, but can stop drinking. They are able to stop at some stage, or they're able to go a few days without drinking it. Someone who is a true addict, a true alcoholic, when they put alcohol into their system, their body has an allergic reaction to that. And that's what causes their body to keep needing more and more of it. Like they physically have to keep drinking it. And it's the same with the drugs. So it's good to distinguish that, because people love to like self-diagnose. I self-diagnosed myself many years ago, and I've had counselors and professionals diagnose me, and they really just were not correct. They didn't have the correct information. There's lots of people who have addictive behaviors and addictive tendencies, but they don't have the physical allergy to the substance. So they are able to stop. And then people who have the physical allergy, it's much harder for them. They're going to need different types of therapy. So the relationship I was in, I started to realize towards the end of it that the person I was with couldn't go a day without alcohol. I started to realize that if he didn't put alcohol into his system, he would start to get sick. He would start to detox. He would start to have anxiety, have palpitations, and he needed the alcohol. So that is addiction. His body had to have it. Okay, let's look at busting the stereotypes of addicts. Addiction doesn't always look like you think it does. I think there's a lot of prejudice around what addicts and alcoholics look like, behave like. You know, there's definitely a prejudice like, oh, if you're an addict, you're homeless on the street. And we all know that's not true. Addiction is a hidden disease. There's so many people who are hiding their drinking, they're hiding their addiction. So, and there's lots of people who are very functioning. Like the person I was with was very functioning. He was able to go to work. He was able to hold down a job. He looked well. He dressed well. He looked like a functioning member of society, which he was. And there was a lot of addictions going on there. So busting the stereotypes of addicts is that, like, just because someone is in addiction, number one, doesn't mean that they can't perform everyday life activities. Number two, another stereotype about addicts and addiction is that they're all abusive. And like, since I left my relationship, numerous people have insinuated to me, that the person I was with, or just kind of not insinuated, but presumed that the person I was in relationship with was abusive to me when I was with him. And he actually wasn't. He was abusive to himself, but he wasn't abusive to me. So again, it's like I wasn't willing to see his addiction to the full extent because he wasn't like a violent drunk. He wasn't aggressive, and he treated me well. He was kind to me. So again, we have to like get out of this stereotype of what we think addicts are, because then we can't see it when it's right in front of our face. So addicts can still work. They can still be intelligent. They can still make money. They also, not all addicts are abusive. Some are very kind and caring. Actually, some of the most beautiful people in the world are addicts. Like, I would say nearly all addicts I've met have been like really nice, kind people. And then of course you have addicts who are abusive, and especially if someone you're living with in addiction is starting to black out. And that was a red flag for me when I started to realize the person I was living with was having blackouts. And I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute, about blackouts, because that was another red trigger or flag that I never actually really knew what a blackout was until someone explained to me what was happening. But someone who's drinking or doing drugs or in addiction to the point of blackout, that's a dangerous place, because when they're blacking out, they are checked out of their body, but they're talking to you. So it's like they're still in their body, but they're not, and they're talking to you. So you think they're conscious, you think they're awake, but the next day they can't remember anything they said to you. So that's a blackout. So I didn't know that. I thought a blackout meant you collapsed, you passed out, you couldn't remember anything. But what I realized towards the end of the relationship I was in was that the person I was living with was drinking to the point of blackout nearly every night. And I was talking to him in the middle of the night and saying things to him, and the next day he wasn't remembering. That was a blackout. And that's a dangerous place, because people in blackouts can do things and not remember. So give me a moment. I need to drink some tea. This is a pretty intense topic, so I'm taking my time with this one today. If you have any questions, you want to post them in the chat. Thanks, Ravi, for commenting. Okay, so what do you do to cope? So when you're living with someone in addiction, you are part of that addiction. You're playing a role in that addiction, in that relationship, and you most likely will have coping mechanisms to be able to live there, to be able to stay in that relationship or to live with the person. What I did to cope was work. Work was my coping mechanism. I put a lot of my time and energy into creating my business while I was in that relationship, and that helped me a lot. I would say coping mechanisms aren't good, and they're not good and they're not bad. In a way, it helped me a lot to have other interests and to be able to put my energy into creating something that I wanted to create in the world. And when I left that relationship, that also helped me, because it didn't feel like I was losing everything. I still had my own interests. I still had what I was creating in the world, and I was financially independent, which is really important if you are in a relationship with an addict and you are financially dependent on them, and that's your reason for staying. I would look at really changing that and getting financially independent, creating your own revenue streams so that you don't feel like you have to stay and that you have no freedom of choice. So my coping mechanism was work. I can see now that I'm out of the relationship with the addict, and that's what I did to cope when he was in his addictions, when he was going through different ups and downs in his journey. I would, as much as I could, be there for him, but then I would distract myself from fully really knowing what was, fully really being aware of what was going on. I would pour my energy into creating, into working, into being busy, into doing classes, into traveling, into getting myself out in the world. I can also see how I was looking for connection. And most of us as humans, most of us, our primary desire, our primary need is love and connection from another human. We need that connection from each other. And so at the beginning of relationships, especially if you get into a relationship with an addict, at the beginning of a relationship with an addict, it can be very like you're infatuated. There's the love bombing. You're like a new drug to them. If you're getting all this attention from them, you feel amazing. They're telling you you're the most amazing person in the world. You're the best thing that ever happened to them. And you're being filled up with all this energy, and it feels great at the beginning. And like any drug, that wears off, and then the person goes on to other drugs, and you can start to feel yourself depleted. So that's where then you might go look somewhere else for that connection. And you may find it in your work, you may find it in exercise, you may find it in other friendships, you may look in other relationships for it. So it's whatever. A lot of what I found was when that person was in there going into their addictions, was that was when I then went to another place to look for connection. And for me, it just happened to be through my work. And your business is not emotional, so trying to receive love through your business is probably not the most helpful thing in the world. Okay, so the other coping mechanism I would say is living in denial. Denial is a coping mechanism. The addict lives in denial, and then you live in denial because you're also living with the addiction. You're part of the addiction if you're living with an addict. So they'll be in denial about their addiction, and then you'll be in denial about the full extent of their addiction. You'll be in denial about what's really going on in your relationship. You'll be in denial about what's really going on in your body. You'll be in denial about the things that you really desire. So for me, it was very much conflictual in my mind a lot. Like, I love this person, I adored them, I enjoyed them. And then there was always this conflict in my world with like, but how is this ever going to really work? How are we ever really going to have a future if this is what he keeps choosing? And I try to convince myself I could make it work, and try to justify and make it okay when really I was just in denial of like, this actually doesn't work. And then the other coping mechanism, which is like denial, it's like we're living with lies. So when you're living with someone in addiction, they are lying to you all the time. That's just part of the addiction. Addicts lie all the time. They lie to themselves, number one, and then they lie to you. They lie about how much they're using. They lie about how much they're drinking. They lie about where they're getting their money from. They really craft their life around lies. And then because they can't be honest with themselves, so they can't be honest with you. And then you are then living with those lies. And then you end up lying to yourself, lying to other people too. So the addict is lying about their addiction, and then you are also hiding their addiction from others too. I didn't realize until I left the relationship how much I was hiding the addiction. I was hiding his addiction, which then also I was hiding me. There was a lot of me I was hiding because I was hiding him, trying to protect him and trying to protect the relationship. So you won't realize it a lot when you're in it. A lot of times you have to leave the situation before you realize how much you were hiding, how much you were lying. And these are all coping mechanisms, and these will have an effect on your body, on your mind, on your spirit. These will affect your nervous system. So for me, we can talk about what this creates for your body next, that had a detrimental effect on my body. Okay. Oh, and I would say too, one of my big coping mechanisms was constantly doing, keeping myself busy, 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 busy. So if I was always busy, then I didn't have to really look at what was really going on. I didn't have to get honest with myself. I didn't have to get honest with other people. So I kept really busy. So I didn't have to really look at how much addiction this person was really in and what I was living with. Another tea break. Okay. Whew. Next, what do you do? Okay, what does living with someone in addiction create for your body? How does it affect your body? A lot of you know I'm an embodiment facilitator. I facilitate a lot with movement, body classes. I love all things bodies. I love bodies. I love my own body. I love working with bodies. And it was interesting to live with someone in addiction and have all the awareness of bodies that I do. And then the effect it actually had on me. I think because of the body work I did, because of the amount of hot yoga I used to go to, breath work, infrared hot yoga, and movement, dance, because I did so much movement, it helped me stay in the relationship. Like it helped me be able to like move the energy, and I was doing a lot of healing his body. I was pulling, like there was days where I'd wake up and I could not get out of bed. I'd be sleeping next to him, but I was healing a lot and taking on a lot out of his body. I was taking a lot of drugs and alcohol out of his body because I would wake up with anxiety. I would wake up feeling so tired, but I would go to hot yoga, infrared hot yoga. I would sweat it out of me. I would move the energy, and then I'd feel energized again. So it was these, in a way, like these therapies, these ways of movement and being with the body really helped me. Had I not had that, I think I would have had a lot more problems with my body. But the one major thing that showed up a lot for me with my body was anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety when I was in that relationship. I had a lot of heart palpitating, feeling like I was detoxing drugs a lot, thinking there was something wrong with me, trying to do a lot of movement and breath work to shift the anxiety, when really it was my awareness of his body and what was happening. And also because I was in a relationship there was a lot of lies there because of the addiction. Then when in the face of lies, you start to feel insane. In the face of lies, that's when your body, your nervous system is going to let you know this isn't safe. You're not safe here. And it's going to try and give you all these signals like heart palpitations and racing mind and palpitating in your belly to try and get you out of the situation. So a lot of anxiety. I think that as somebody who, if you're living with someone in addiction, the likelihood is that you're very empathetic, you're very compassionate, and you're very caring. And we tend to, the most caring, compassionate people tend to choose people in a relationship who need healing. And addicts are very kind and caring and compassionate too. But when they're in their addiction, that all is in the way. So if you're a healer, you're a light worker, you have all these capacities with bodies, you're going to end up taking on their trauma. You're going to end up trying to heal their bodies. So I spent a lot of energy I put a lot of energy into trying to heal him without even knowing it. I was doing a lot of unconscious healing of him. And in the end, I think it really just took a lot of energy from me. And there wasn't a lot of receiving of energy back. In the beginning, there was a lot of gifting and receiving energy. It was back and forth. And then once the addiction started to progress, that's when it was more me trying to heal him, and then not receiving any energy back, and then starting to feel drained. There was about a year before I left the relationship. There was a couple of months where I tend to be quite a happy, light, joyful person. I think that's one of the reasons I was able to stay as long as I could, because I was able to create my own reality within that environment and still have my joy and lightness and happiness. But there was a couple of months, I think about 6 months, which was a long time for me, where every day I woke up and I could not find my joy. No matter what I did, I couldn't find my happiness and my lightness. And that was when I really started to realize how much I was trying to heal him, and how much I was trying to take out of his body, and how much it was getting stuck in my body. So these are all things that can start to show up for your body: anxiety, nervous system dysregulation, which is, the fight or flight response. You can start to feel dissociated. You could be tired all the time, low energy, low sex drive, low libido. That definitely happened to me in the relationship, where towards the end I didn't have a sex drive. I didn't really feel that turned on with this person or in my own body. Again, if you're taking so much energy out of their body, you're trying to heal them, you are being drained of your life force energy, and so you're not going to feel very turned on and full of pleasure and with a healthy libido. So other things can show up with your body: physical things that you can't seem to change. These are all indicators of what the effect of living with someone in addiction is having on your body. Hello from Romania. Hi, Florin. Okay, so what else? I just really want to pinpoint when you are living with someone in addiction and there's a lot of lies. They're lying to themselves, they're lying to you, they're not telling you the truth, they're telling you half-truths about things. For me, living with those lies start to make me feel insane. I start to feel crazy. So because you have this awareness, when someone's lying to you, but then if you are not acknowledging that, or you're buying the lies, or you're also in denial because you're living with addicts, you're in denial, and you're trying to believe that what they're saying is the truth, when you somewhere in your body knows it's not, you will start to feel crazy. Living with lies will make you feel crazy. And that will show up in your body again as anxiety and fight or flight in your nervous system. It doesn't bring you peace. Let's just put it that way. You can start to feel crazy in your head. You can start to have a lot of mind racing thoughts, not being able to sleep, anger. I was angry a lot in that relationship and felt frustrated a lot. Okay, let's take a breath. Take another drink of water, some tea. All right, so what do you do to take care of you? All right, so this is the piece. I would never tell anyone who's living with someone in addiction to leave the addict. I don't think there's no right thing to do here, and there's no wrong thing. People like to think, oh, if you're if you're with an addict, just leave them. It's not as easy as that. I know it's not. So if you are listening to this podcast and you are someone who's living with someone in addiction, I'd say the greatest thing you can do is to take care of you first. Do whatever you need to do to take care of you in that situation. Sometimes the thought of leaving the addict or leaving the relationship is such a beyond that you can't even go there. So you want to take it back to, what can you do right now? What can you handle right now? What choice can you make today to take care of you today? Because if you're not even taking care of you right now in that relationship, leaving the relationship is so far beyond where you're at right now, and you can't even comprehend getting there. Leaving an addict is an incredible traumatic thing to do, and I'll talk about that in the next episode because it brings up all sorts of things. So I don't even want to get into like leaving an addict right now. I just want you to look at what to do if you're still living with an addict and how to take care of yourself in that. So I would say number one is like to have allowance for you and for what you're choosing. One of the things for me was that like I knew this person that I loved and that I was cared deeply for. I knew he was an addict. I wasn't stupid. Everybody knows when they're living with an addict or they're in love with an addict. And I found that judging him or judging me or judging that I chose to be with him didn't help me at all. That never helped me. That never helped me change anything. That never helped me get out of the situation. That never helped me when I was in the situation. So number one, drop the judgment. Drop the judgment of what you're choosing or why you're choosing it or what they're choosing. And coming from a space of no judgment and where you can have kindness and compassion for you and kindness and compassion for them. That's the only space you'll be able to create a change from. So if you can, filter out, release the judgments you have of addiction, of you choosing to be with someone in addiction, because there is a lot of judgments in the world about addiction and about addicts and about and people do both sides. They're like, they judge it as a bad thing, but then they also do the feel sorry, like sympathy for the addict, and neither of them are helpful. So look at like, okay, how can I get to a place of really just, if there was nobody else in the world and people's points, like I didn't have a reference point for addiction and I didn't have a judgment of addiction. And I look at, okay, I chose to be with this person. I chose to live with this person, and here we are. And now if I didn't judge that choice and I didn't judge them and I didn't judge what they're choosing and I didn't judge me for choosing it, what would it be like to have kindness and compassion for me? And then you'll be able to have kindness and compassion for them. Okay. So kindness and compassion for you first. And then once you get to a point where you have compassion for yourself, for what you're choosing, then looking at the person you're with, right? Looking at the addict and looking at, can I be okay with this person I'm with as they are right now? Like, if I knew they were never going to change, this is who they're always going to be, can I be okay with that? And if you can, then great. And if you can't, then that's when you have to look at making other choices. And I would say that you have to also look at that from not justifying. You have to get really honest with yourself and look at, can I really be okay with this? Like, because we're constantly putting energy into the addict's world and into this person we love and care about. We're constantly putting energy into their world to try and get them to change or to stop or to fix them. And it's like, if you actually just pulled all that energy out and went, okay, everything they're showing me today, this is who they are. If they were never to change, can I be okay with that? And you know what? For some people, they can be okay with that. Lots of people choose to stay in relationships with alcoholics and with addicts, and they make it work for them. And then other people choose to leave. No one can tell you what's right for you or what's wrong for you, what you should or shouldn't do. Again, I would never advise anyone in an addictive relationship unless they were being physically threatened and they were being physically harmed, to leave. If your safety is in danger or your kid's safety is in danger, of course, please take them out of that situation and get to a safe place. And even in that, I understand why people stay. It's a really, um, it's a really, it's a really personal topic, and you really just have to look at if this person, if this is something that you can be okay with, and that's really a personal choice you have to get to with you. Okay. Let's look at yourself. All right. So I know that when you're in relationship and living with someone in addiction, there can be a hyper focus on the other person. We can put all our energy on them. We're constantly trying to help them, fix them, get them to slow down, get them to stop. We're trying to help them and change them and putting all this energy on them. And then when that doesn't work, we get mad at them and we get angry at them and all the rest. And all of that is a distraction from what's really going on with you. So what I did a lot in this relationship was when things would show up, I'd look at, okay, what is it in me that's trying to heal this person? So, number one, am I trying to heal this person? Am I trying to heal their addictions? And then, if I am, which most likely you are, what is unhealed within me that keeps me wanting to heal this other person? So, there must be something unresolved in me that wants to try and heal someone else. So, what is unhealed within me that is trying to find resolution through this relationship? And that question is a really big question. You may need to sit with that for a while. You might need to get a facilitator or a therapist to sit with you and walk you through that process, because that was a big process for me. That was a lot to look at. There was definitely elements in my relationship, things that from my past that I had not healed or I had not completed. There was stuff within my body and my nervous system that I hadn't completed that I was looking to complete through this relationship. And when I got present with that and I started to work through those things, it became easier for me to let go of the need to heal this person. And you will find that you end up, even if you don't look at the stuff within you and then you leave the relationship you're in, or you leave the person, you leave this situation, you'll end up attracting someone very similar next time. So I was able to see the patterns in my own life. I was able to see the relationships I chose before that, and they were all very similar patterns, very similar energies in men. And a lot of it, again, was me trying to heal something in another man that healed something for them that they didn't want me to heal for them. Because also you can't heal something for someone else. Everyone has to heal their own stuff themselves. So what is unhealed within me that is trying to find resolution through this relationship? I would say nervous system healing is incredible. That helped me a lot in getting resolution through my own body. So I didn't go back into another relationship of addiction. And then another question is, what is this distracting me from? So again, how much energy are you putting into trying to help the person you're in relationship with? And also this goes true not just for in relationships with someone in addiction. We can do this in all relationships. We distract ourselves with our relationships. So what am I distracting me from with this? A lot of times I distract myself so I don't have to be present with me, so I don't have to be with me, so I don't have to look at myself, so I don't create my own life, so I'm not as great as I really want to be. I can hide behind this relationship. I can make their problems greater than me so I don't have to receive. There's so many different elements and things you could be distracting you from. So again, what is this distracting you from? Next question. How much energy am I putting into trying to help this person? And how is that taking me away from me? So again, and I spoke about this a few times already, how much energy, your creative energy, your sensualness, your joy, your happiness, your lightness, you're putting it all into this other person, and it's taking you away from you having those energies with you. It's draining you of your life force. So you don't show up as beautiful, as joyful, as wonderful, as sensual as you can be in the world. And then second last question. What is incomplete in my world that is trying to be completed through this person? A lot of this is nervous system stuff. There's stuff in our bodies, trauma from childhood that we've never worked through, that we've locked into our bodies. We have memories we store, and we haven't completed that cycle. We haven't worked through that cycle. And we are unconsciously choosing situations that the energy is familiar. It's a similar energy to maybe we had experienced at 3 or 10 or 16. And we are trying to complete that in our world through this person now. So maybe this person you're in a relationship is an energy that's similar to your dad or your brother or your mother. And there's something incomplete in your world from childhood, and you're trying to complete it now through this relationship. Again, you may want to get a facilitator, a body worker, someone who works with trauma, nervous system, to help you work through this stuff, somatics. Okay, and then last one, is this energy familiar? So look at the energy of the addiction, the person you're in relationship with. What is this energy familiar? Like, is there an energy like that you grew up with, or was there someone you were in relationship that had a similar energy to that? I would say for me, the chaos was very familiar. The energy of the lies was very familiar. And so until I healed that stuff in my own world and worked through that stuff in my own world, was only then could I leave that relationship. And also, when you leave the relationship, you do a lot of the healing as well. And we'll talk about that in the next episode, leaving an addict. When your nervous system is dysregulated, right? And I think at this stage, a lot of you know about your nervous system, but if you don't, I talk about it. I don't know if I did an episode on the podcast, but I have some videos on my YouTube about nervous system. So when your nervous system is dysregulated, mainly when you feel fight or flight, anxiety, when you don't feel peace and ease and calm, you may be living a lot of your life in a state of nervous system dysregulation without even realizing it. So you attract people to you who also live in that place. So until I did a lot of healing work with my own nervous system, I was still attracting that kind of chaotic energy in a partner. Having being at ease in my body, having a sense of balance with my nervous system, calm, regulation, a regulated nervous system, then what I started attracting to me is people who are safer for me, people who are calmer. But when my nervous system was dysregulated, I attracted someone who also had a very dysregulated nervous system. So I would say the healing begins within you. You have to do the work first on you. You shift, you change, and then everything on the outside world shifts and change. And maybe the person you're living with, maybe they start to shift and change with you, or maybe they don't. And maybe you leave, or maybe you stay. That is your own personal journey to go on. Okay, guys. Thank you for listening. I will be back again with another episode on leaving an addict, which will be like part 2. So if there was anything that I spoke about in today's show that you'd like more information on, please feel free to reach out to me. I am a somatic practitioner myself, so I do work with the nervous system and clearing the subconscious beliefs and also working with your body. So if there's anything that triggered you today or you'd like more support with on a one-on-one basis, I offer private sessions online, working with your nervous system, helping you move through and complete those cycles that may be incomplete in your world. I also have a movement membership. There's a wait list for it at the moment. We'll open it back up in a couple of months, but movement is also very powerful and part of a somatic practice as well in working through a lot of these traumas that you've had or that you may still be experiencing. Okay, we have one question here. Can the fact that I live in a toxic or addictive relationship cause me as a man erectile problems? It may do. Yes, I don't know. I would I can't answer that question for you. Everyone is going to have their own individual experience. But if you look at everything as energy, and if you look at the energy of addiction, does it have a light, joyful, orgasmic, sensual energy? Or is the energy of addiction heavier, denser, darker? It doesn't really have a lightness to it. So if you're living with that energy, that your body is going to be immersed in that energy. So it's hard to feel sensual and turned on and orgasmic and alive in your body when you're living with an energy that isn't that. That is the actual opposite to that. And again, that's why I did so much body work and moving, going to the beach. Like, I was constantly doing what I needed to do to have that energy of sensualness and joy in my body. And to a certain degree, I could, until it got to a point where I couldn't anymore. And I think that's what got me to the point of really leaving the relationship, was when it just became too hard work. It was just too hard. And my joy and my lightness was more important to me. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. And I hope to hear from some of you in the future. Let me know if you got anything from this podcast. And if you are listening on iTunes, if you would like to do a review or hit the 5-star button, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. Bye for now.